Yo people, welcome back to another one. This time it's my WrestleMania 41 review for both Nights 1 and Night 2, and overall, as I predicted, the show, which has a poor build-up heading into it, overall suffered from it, and on top of that, some of these matches were a complete embarrassment, whether it was in the ring or the final outcome. Now, out of the 14 matches on the card, I got 12 correct predictions, which is good and bad. Good because they stuck with some things which made sense, like Seth Rollins winning the triple threat, but also it proved how predictable everything was, which isn't great. I want to know what you thought of WrestleMania 41 as a whole. Which was your favorite match? What stuff was disappointing? Let me know all of that down below in the comments. I'd appreciate if you could like the video as well and sub to the channel. As controversial as this might be, I honestly preferred Night 1 in terms of the quality of the matches, the outcomes, even though some were predictable like I mentioned. I want to say overall, Night 1 had a mixture of good and average. But for me, Night 2 was a mixture of underwhelming, stupid decisions, average, one elite moment which was Dominic Mysterio winning the title. But I think stuff like the main event was absolutely atrocious, and I think people are unfairly blaming Travis Scott for the main event when there are 3 other culprits who are more to blame, but we'll get into that when we talk about Cody versus Cena. I do have some sort of high hopes for the Raw after Mania and the SmackDown after Mania in terms of hype and everything, but yeah, let's get on with these matches. The first match of Night 1 was obviously Jey Uso versus Gunther. Now, I think the match was pretty dry up until Gunther hit Jey on the head with the belt, and from then on it was pretty good. The match picked up pace. I liked the fact that they stole each other's moves at points throughout the match, and as for the result, I was personally happy that Jey won. It wasn't something that, oh please, he has to win, he has to win. I didn't really care like that, but I wanted Jey to win. I do think both wrestlers suffered from this build up for their stories being so poor. It was really badly done and they had 10 weeks to work on this. But overall, Gunther, he had his reign. It was pretty boring, and for me it was time to move the belt on personally. However, one thing I wasn't happy about was them making Gunther tap out, but it is what it is. The next match was the New Day versus the War Raiders, and the fact this match didn't have any Big E cameos or any shock moments made it kind of a waste of time, which is one of the averages of this whole Night 1. It was pretty stale. I don't understand how the SmackDown tag belts, which had a much better build in terms of the storyline and is going to be defended in a triple threat TLC match, this couldn't be on WrestleMania, but War Raiders versus the New Day is. It shows you that this Mania build not only has been poor, but has been improvised a lot. But yeah, for the match itself, it's alright, nothing special. I've never understood the War Raiders hype personally, but I'm just glad they don't have the titles anymore. Hopefully the New Day can add excitement and prestige to these belts, and I'm sure they will unless Triple H fumbles this, which let's not put it past him. Moving on, we had Jade Cargill versus Naomi, and this was a pretty good match in my opinion. Jade looks a lot cleaner and sharper in the ring. This was the first women's match at Mania as well that didn't involve a championship, so a pretty historic moment for both of them. Personally, I wanted Naomi to win based on all the great work she's actually been doing since she turned heel, but it was obvious Jade had to win this, and now it's going to serve in terms of building her up for that main event scene that she's just destined to be at. The next match was LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu, and the build up heading into this was poor again. We pretty much had nothing, but I got the result that I personally wanted, which was Jacob winning the belt. And Jacob, as usual, doing great job in the ring. LA Knight, he did good as well, especially that mid-air finisher. But yeah, it was all pretty predictable, pretty straightforward. Again, another title that needed to change the champion in order to see if we can get some more relevance and more hype behind the belt. But I wouldn't say LA Knight was responsible for just the dryness that has been the US title. I think that, again, is on the shoulders of Triple H and whoever's been booking his reign. We move on to the last minute changed match, which was El Grande Americano versus Rey Fenix, who filled in for Rey Mysterio, who obviously got injured the night before. Now again, this feud lacked a story, and if they'd have done a proper storyline in terms of the whole pride of luchadors and everything to do with the culture and everything, and we got a more in-depth look, then Rey Mysterio's injury actually wouldn't have affected the storyline because he's still being replaced by another luchador. Unfortunately, there was barely any build-up, and it was obvious that El Grande Americano, aka the Spicy Chad Gable, was going to pick up the win. Now, one thing I didn't like in particular about this win is that they rinsed the same finish that we've been seeing on regular Raws and SmackDowns, which is put the metal thing in his mask on his forehead and then cheat by using that. But one thing to point out as well, I'm glad Phoenix's moveset hasn't been nerfed since joining WWE, so at least that's a positive, and he got to debut at WrestleMania so soon, so all round, yeah, good for him, good for Chad. Next up was Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair, and honestly, This match was probably the worst from a technical perspective on night one, with a lot of stiff moves, a lot of botches, but I do think Charlotte was low-key sabotaging towards the end. I've seen some highlights and some clips, and Charlotte looks like she was sandbagging. She just wasn't interested, and she was kind of being a pain to work with. So I respect Tiffy for getting through that, even when she chipped her tooth or whatever, she was bleeding from her mouth. So yeah, fair play to her, she got through all of that. Last but not least, for night one, was Seth versus Roman versus Punk, and I made a few videos weeks ago saying exactly what would happen. Seth wins with the assist of Paul Heyman, and overall I'm glad they did it. I know that the last few days before WrestleMania, people were catching on and it became the more predictable finish, and I'm glad that they stuck with it rather than let's subvert expectations and not do what we originally planned. This was by far the best match of the night, and with Seth Rollins winning, this has huge implications on the landscape of WWE going forwards, and I'm glad we're getting another Seth heel run. For some reason though, people don't seem to understand linking Paul Heyman to The Rock and starting the feud for next year's Mania between The Rock and Roman through Seth Rollins. I don't understand how people don't see this, but we'll let the story unfold and then somehow everyone's going to be surprised. Now let's move on to night two, which was a disappointment. This show actually declined massively the longer it went on, and the night started off with Io versus Rhea versus Bianca, which overall was a pretty good match and a great opener for the night. It was arguably the best match of the night, and I was really happy with all three of their efforts in the match despite the atrocious storylines they all got given, the build up they got given. People are still booing Bianca Belair when she's done nothing wrong, but it is what it is. I assume they're going to take this Rhea versus Bianca storyline into SummerSlam or something like that. But yeah, a really good opening match and something that at least delivered in terms of the match. Next up was Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest, and personally, I didn't care for this match. And apart from the flashy weapon spots, I didn't care for it, to be honest. The storyline build-up was boring. Overall, it was underwhelming. Easily the most forgettable part of night two. And for me, the loser of this match has to be demoted to the mid-card. I think that's what they were fighting out for, even though obviously they wouldn't say it. But for me, this was the loser goes to the mid-card, and that is Damian Priest, unfortunately. And I don't think he gets back into the main event scene unless he rebrands. Next was the Intercontinental Championship Fatal 4-Way, and this handed me my first incorrect prediction of the whole WrestleMania card. Although I did predict Finn Balor to get pinned, but I mean, his name is Finn Balor, so that was probably the easiest thing to predict out of this whole card. But what I thought was going to happen was that Dominic would announce Penta as the new Judgment Day member and turn heel on Finn and allow Penta to get the win. But instead, I was actually surprised that they flat out let Dominic just get the pin, especially on Finn Balor, and win the championship. I'm actually really happy that they went with such a bold move, and I hope Dominic gets to finally flourish and advance without just being bait, just being booed every week and just taking losses every week. And I actually think his celebration was boosted massively by the crowd actually hyping it up even more. He got cheered more than Jey Uso and John Cena's wins, which is crazy considering Dominic loses so often and gets booed out of the building, which is a gimmick, I understand that. But the way he got cheered, this guy might have to go on a face run now. And it was from this moment onwards that the card just went downhill. And next up was Randy Orton's Open Challenge. And when I made the video, they hadn't announced that it was even going to be an Open Challenge. So I just said, Randy Orton's going to win this match regardless of who he faces. And we found out that he ended up facing Joe Hendry, the TNA World Champion. Now, I personally wasn't familiar with Joe Hendry, and he looks very gimmicky. I feel like I won't like him if he does come to the WWE full time. And he lost kind of easily in my opinion. I personally wasn't impressed by anything that he did. He did nothing that had any highlights apart from that dumb spinning thing. And yeah, that was that. The match was decided quite quickly. I'm glad Randy gave him a second RKO just to humble him. And then he took his camera spin zoom gimmick thing. That was pretty funny, to be fair. But overall, a throwaway match. Moving on, we had Logan Paul versus AJ Styles. Now, the less said about this garbage that they gave us, the better. AJ Styles was again carrying Logan Paul, who was botching a few things here and there. AJ is yet again being wasted as Triple H keeps shoving Logan's wood in his mouth and making sure he drains it, making sure that WWE superstars of high caliber waste their time with a YouTuber. Logan is decent in the ring, no one can deny that. He's got talent. Good on him, congratulations. But I'm tired of WWE giving the good in-ring wrestlers to Logan Paul. It's a waste of time for everyone involved. Logan doesn't even get a boost because no one cares. And what I'd say going forward, give Logan Paul to Ludwig Kaiser and those people, those mid-card bums that lose anyways. Give Logan Paul to those people and at least build him up in some sort of way that people will care. Next up was Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Lyra Valkyrie and a mystery partner after Bayley got attacked on night 1. This was another wrong prediction for me because the mystery partner thing was literally announced the day before, so I couldn't obviously change my video and my prediction. And once I saw it was Becky Lynch that came out, I knew it was over. Triple H bent the knee to Becky Lynch, and in doing so, he's thrown away this entire division. This whole tag team female thing, it's in the mud. They removed Bayley from having a match at WrestleMania and also make Liv Morgan get pinned and lose the belts after her incredibly underrated 2024. This is her reward. She already lost the belt to Rhea Ripley, didn't get a rematch, and then gets the tag belts, which is a demotion if we're being honest, although she is doing good work with Raquel. But then she's the one that gets pinned and loses the belts. What's going on? It's an absolute joke how two female wrestlers, Bayley and Liv Morgan, get wrecked because of the return of Becky Lynch. For me, this is the worst decision of the whole WrestleMania, but that's that Becky Hogan booking. And that leaves the main event, which was Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. Now, straight away, everyone is trying to blame Travis Scott. They're all saying it's his fault, what's he doing there, etc. Now, why don't you blame the guy you've all been brainwashed into believing is an amazing champion, an amazing leader? He couldn't even carry John Cena in this match. That exposed this whole match. Cody couldn't do it. Cena himself was garbage, of course. We know he's a part-timer. He's not had a fight in however long. And people are trying to defend him being garbage by saying, oh yeah, he wrestled bad on purpose because that's what his heel character wanted to do. That's the whole point of his character. He doesn't want to give us what we want. So if we want to see good wrestling, he's going to give us bad wrestling. No, stop hiding behind that. That's not an excuse. He was genuinely bad and he wasn't helped by his partner Cody Rhodes to even do anything to improve the match. John Cena was selling badly. For example, that isn't a heel move, that's a talent issue, that's the ring rust that John Cena has. People should also be cooking Triple H. He should be getting roasted for this horrible, horrible booking, the way the match ended, all of that stuff. They spent way too much time with Travis Scott when he should have just snuck in there, done a quick little distraction on the referee, and that's it. But they did way too much with him. They wanted him to catch the crossroads by Cody Rhodes as the receipt from getting slapped at Elimination Chamber, which was just cringe, it was pointless. And the fact that Travis Scott came out by himself, no The Rock, no Seth Rollins, no Paul Heyman, no one related to anything, no Stone Cold to defend Cody, no Randy Orton. It's an absolute disgrace. We knew that this match needed other star power, other cameos to hide the fact that John Cena cannot do 25 minutes by himself. This is his first match back. And what do? You bring out Travis Scott, let him take all the heat. I'm really struggling to understand this heel turn now because it looks like a last minute thing. He wrestled badly. The build-up's been poor. There's been no connection between The Rock and John Cena. The Rock didn't even show up. Whether he shows up on Raw or SmackDown, there's still hope, but I wouldn't hold my breath. And all round, I think this is definitely the worst WrestleMania main event of this century at least. I'm happy Cena won, don't get me wrong, because I needed Cody to lose that belt. He's been a fraud of a champion. But this match just wasn't on Travis Scott. This was John Cena, this was Cody, and most importantly, this is on Triple H. But the fans will glaze him regardless. They're always quick to praise Triple H, but they never want to call him out when he does huge mistakes, like this second half of night 2 of WrestleMania. I'm just saying, this was the first WrestleMania where Triple H had zero of Vince's storylines, because he didn't have the bloodline to rely on this time for this WrestleMania. This is the first time Triple H has all the storylines brand new, fresh for this WrestleMania, and the build-ups were atrocious. Some of these matches were atrocious. Some of the decisions were atrocious. And he has to be on Fraud Watch now. If you aren't waking up and seeing what a mess he's been doing this whole time, it's time to wake up now. But yeah, as always, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. What did you make of this WrestleMania? I'd also appreciate if you could like the video, sub to the channel, and thank you for your time.